Good afternoon, cult members, and welcome to Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And welcome to our non-spoiler, like we can spoil this movie, of Tenet. We have seen this movie. Well, okay, back up. We've been wanting to see this movie for 18 months.
Right.
And then the world...
Christopher Nolan, yes.
And the world came to a stop, and we've been talking about when is it appropriate or time for us to go back to the theater. Now, we live in Arizona. It's been very hit and miss on how things have been handled here. But theaters opened about 3 weeks ago for us.
Yep.
And so we, in AMC, reopened. We have the AList. And so we talked about it for a long time, and we didn't hear anything bad about with the theaters reopening. And so we went to the IMAX theater on a Thursday night.
Right. The IMAX theater holds probably 300.
Yeah.
And there were 7 people in the entire theater, including us. And AMC, just if you're not doing A-list, but you like to go to movies and you're kind of waffling, the A-list is amazing. We've had it for a little over a year. They halted when everything started and everything got closed down. They halted taking out our monthly charge, and then once everything opened back up, you got your choice to reactivate it. I think if you don't reactivate it on your own, it automatically does, like in November or something.
November, December, yeah.
And we got a bunch of credits, some credits towards food or buying another ticket or whatever.
Right.
Little shout out to AMC. Oh, and they're like cleaning everything and using the ionizer gun things to clean the air.
And they won't take any cash, and you don't actually, like, there's no physical touching or changing of stuff between the people with, like, taking your tickets. There's like that's all scanned and everything.
Yep, and they block out like a big section around you as soon as you get your ticket.
Yeah, so it's handled really, really well. So with all of that, this was the movie that we wanted to go see because it's Tenet, because it's Christopher Nolan, and we wanted to see it in
John
IMAX.
David Washington
and so we are going to do our best to try to explain this movie, but we need to see it like 6 or 7 more times.
Yes.
I have a general idea of how it works, but
right. It's a lot, for me anyway, it's a lot like Inception was. You sort of got it on first viewing, but we own Inception and we watch it a lot.
Actually, we watched it a couple weeks ago to get ready for, not that they're connected, but to get ready for Tenet. Right.
And like almost every time you're like, oh, you get just a little more, another piece.
I'm not going to explain, like we're saying, this is one of those movies that I know a lot of people have talked about, like, not really kind of understanding it and stuff, and there's a lot of truth to that review, that idea in that particular.
It's a difficult concept to get across in one viewing. It's
that's a good way of putting it.
Time manipulation.
Right.
And so you really have to kind of understand, like, if you watched Endgame and they're like, trying to explain time travel based on Back to the Future, and they're like, it doesn't work like that, and they have to kind of explain it. It's just a lot like Interstellar. Like, a lot of people didn't get
that the first time.
Interstellar the first time,
or maybe even the 4th or 5th time.
Right.
Like that concept was really hard. The best way I can try to explain the way they handle time travel without really spoiling it is it's very Doctor Who, the Doctor and River song. And if you understand their dynamic, that's the best way to try to at least have that kind of basis in your head. But that's all of the plot I really want to talk about. Like, I don't want to sit here and talk about, this happened and this happened and this was this and that, because part of the fun and part of why I love this movie so much was we really did go in kind of blind. We knew it had to deal with time, and for the longest time, I actually didn't want to see a trailer or anything to this.
Yeah.
I knew that there was what the general concept was of the movie, but I didn't want to see anything about it. And so with all of that, I don't want to sit here and tell you like this is this and this is
Right.
this and that and that.
Right.
Because even though it's a difficult subject to try to understand and wrap your brain around, I feel like they explain it well enough for you to get enjoyment in the theater the first time,
Yes.
and then pique your interest enough to come back again and again and again and again.
Yes. To kind of grasp a lot of the nuances of what they do. I thought it was interesting. A lot of trailers for big movies in the last maybe 2 years, probably. A lot of the Marvel movies probably started this. Is the trailers were the first 10 or 15 minutes of the movie was everything you saw in the trailer, and then everything else was all brand new. And this was kind of the opposite. We saw one or two things in like the first half of the movie that were in the trailer. Most of what you see happens in the second half of the trailer.
Of the movie.
Or the movie.
And I yes, but we're manipulating time. So it's kind of hard to sit there and say blah 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 blah. You know, it's
so this isn't a spoiler. In the trailer, them John David Washington and Robert Pattinson going up the building. That happens very early on.
Early, yeah.
And the scene from the trailer where
bungee.
Yeah. John David Washington is sitting in the chair on the railroad tracks. That happens right in the beginning of the movie.
Right, yeah.
Most everything else happens in the second
Much
half.
later, yeah. I wanted to see this in IMAX because it was filmed for IMAX. It was designed for IMAX. It was an IMAX movie. And so we got to see it in IMAX with 5 other people. And because it's Christopher Nolan and he understands that format so well, that there's a lot of big scope, big scenery kind of shots, but they're also very intimate in your like very large face, very very close facial acting. I don't think there's another way of putting it. And so you have that dichotomy between those two things. And the other thing too is, again, I don't want to spoil anything, but because this was filmed in IMAX, one of the things that a lot of people have said in the past is IMAX is so hard to film in because big, large machines filmed actually on film still. That and they're very loud and very clunky and very hard. And they do stuff in this movie that is physically not possible to do unless you film it on digital. So I, without knowing for sure that this was filmed on a digital platform and they did it, my mind melts because I'm a cinematographer. I'm a cinematographer fan. Hoytman is the guy who actually did this, and he does all of Christopher Nolan's. He did in Inception, and he did Interstellar and Dunkirk and all this stuff. And he's really amazing, but his style is very different from someone like Roger Deakins or something like that. And so that with that idea and messing with time, you there's stuff going on in the foreground, there's stuff going on in the background, and so that's a part of the problem I think that some people are having because they don't know where to look.
Yes. And I guess this was also a criticism of some people is that again, IMAX, big sound, and sometimes it was difficult to understand the dialogue. And one of the first things I said when we left the theater is I need to see this movie about 7 more times, and at least once with the closed captioning on, so you get some of the things that they're saying, because there's just, there's some explosions going on, or there's a lot of background sounds that you just can't.
And I think a lot of that is on purpose. Because they want the Nolan and everybody else wants you to be
in the action, in the scene.
In the scene, but also there's a level of, I want to say confusion, but that's not quite right. Like it is very much, they want you, because you're in the action, you don't necessarily understand what's going on the entire time,
Right.
And so that adds to that. Right?
Yeah,
that
they want you to be confused or off kilter,
off kilter and
trying
stuff,
to. One of the things too, and I'm sure you're going to talk about this, is like half the people in this movie don't actually have a name.
Yes, yeah. So I was going to talk about the actors and the acting next, but very interesting story idea when you're already dealing with time, but you're not identifying any of the actors or any of the characters because they have no names.
Right.
And they don't blatantly come out and say, "Oh, what's your name?"
Right.
But when they get introduced, there's always a misdirection of the introduction where you would do the name part. Like they never really get to a point where they say John David Washington is John.
Right.
And Robert Pattinson is Joe.
I think there was one time that I remember clearly where I think Elizabeth Debicki's character was introducing him when he sat down at the table with her.
Yeah.
And then her husband walks up, or somebody walked up.
One of the security guards.
And she said, and he said, "I'm just a passenger," or "I'm the passenger."
I'm the protagonist or something like that.
Or no, protagonist. That's what he said.
Yeah.
I'm the protagonist.
And so I love that, again, with the keeping you off kilter, keeping you unstable within the story aspect. It was really kind of cool. John David Washington has become one of my favorite actors.
Yeah,
really
amazing.
loved him in Black Klansman.
Yep.
That's where I really first kind of saw him. He's very robotic at times, like on purpose in this movie. He's very he comes across as soulless and emotionless and that stuff, but there's a point in time where all of it all explodes out, and then from that point in time there's actually a level of connection with everything, and then that's when you starting to put all the pieces together, and it starts to kind of go this way and that way and stuff, and so it's really cool. Robert Pattinson's character is kind of the opposite of John David Washington.
Yes.
He's very flamboyant, and he's very outgoing, and
having a good time,
and drinks on the job, and that kind of thing. And Elizabeth Debicki, she's just awesome.
She is very, very tall.
Yes. And Kenneth Branagh, who plays the main bad guy, he's actually one of the few people who actually have a name in the movie. He plays the Russian bad guy really, really well. One of the things I wanted to talk about with the way it's shot, Elizabeth Debicki, she's like 6'3".
Yeah,
she's very tall. And John David Washington is not.
Right.
And there's multiple scenes where the two of them are in a scene together. And a lot of directors and leading stars and whatever would make them set it up so that they are at least at the same height.
Right.
When they're on screen, or he would be slightly taller than her, because he's the star.
They either do like up shots because he's the guy,
right?
And guys are always supposed to be taller than the women,
and they didn't do that in this one.
Nope.
And it's something that again, I'm a cinematographer person. I'm looking at camera angles and lighting and stuff like that. So it's something that I obviously noticed, because later on, Kenneth Branagh, who's not as tall as Elizabeth,
right?
They shot him very much overbearing, because he's the bad guy. He's supposed to be the big bad,
right?
And so it was a very cool, subtle way of these people at the same level.
Yeah,
Kenneth Branagh is very much the big bad. He's over everybody else and stuff. And,
yep, that was very cool.
That again, we're talking about the technical stuff because we don't want to spoil it, but this movie is probably the best movie we've seen all year.
Well, that's not really.
It's not really saying much. I'm not saying it's my favorite movie of the year, but I'm pretty sure that it's the best movie we've seen all year.
Yeah.
And it's probably, again, I need to watch it 6 or 7 more times, but it's probably going to be in my top 5 at the end of the year too, because I really loved what they did, the concept, how it was shot, everything.
Yeah.
And the score is amazing. It's Ludwig Göransson.
Yeah.
I mean, he's our guy from Mandalorian and stuff.
Yeah. And
Black
I mean,
Panther.
it's Christopher Nolan. I don't, as far as I'm concerned, of all the movies of his I've watched, I don't think he's ever made a bad one. I know a lot of people didn't especially like Interstellar, but I think that's just because they didn't get it.
And some people complained about Dunkirk too, but
and they're wrong.
And,
it was an amazing,
wrong.
amazing movie. Christopher has definitely decided that time is his thing that he likes to concentrate
on. He likes to deal
on.
with the concept of time and
Yeah.
what it means. Even in the Dark Knight series, they talked. There was concepts of time and how to deal with time and stuff like that. And so overall, I don't believe we've gone 16 minutes on this, and we didn't spoil anything. Let's there's a couple of there's a fight scene I want to talk about. We might do a separate video for that, and just the idea of what they're doing in the movie. But for this particular review, I did not want to do anything about the plot at all. Let's skewer it 7.256 out of 5. I'm at a 4.27.
A 4.27.
4.75. Sorry.
4.75.
4.75 out of 5. It's not quite a perfect movie for me, and it's only because we've only seen it once.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. I don't want to be the same as you, but I think I'm there.
We do it all the time anyway.
I know. 4.75. Because we need to see it.
4.58.
4.99999 because we need to see it again.
Yeah, it's 4.75. 4.5 stars. I need some time with it. We saw it on Thursday. We're doing the review on Saturday. I still need more time about it, thinking about it. And the boat. I'm just gonna say the boat. I've been dreaming about the boat for 4 days.
My husband needs to win the lottery so he can purchase
I need to win multiple lotteries for that boat. Jesus. So that is our thoughts and our non-spoiler review. Hopefully for Tenet, let us know what you thought of the movie and our review of it in the comments down below. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, and follow us on all the social media stuff, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Links down there. And until next time, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Very timey-wimey.
Oh, it is timey-wimey.